Thanks very much, Gordy, and thanks, Amy, for inviting us to the meeting. When I got elected, I guess March the 4th in the by-election, shortly after, actually my first letter came from Sherry Gamble, who came into the office and who I've known for a long time. We've got kids the same age, and Bruce and I played men's league hockey together, although he's a lot better hockey player than I am. See, I gave you that credit, Bruce. And then I had other letters that we sent to the minister as well, and we hadn't yet got the answer, I don't think, yet back from the form letter that we get back from the minister when we send letters from people about issues, and when Amy wanted to meet with Gordon and I. And it was a really good meeting because we had been given lots of emails and videos and clips and reports. Because when you're a politician and you get an issue about health, one of the first things they caution you about was they say, you have to watch what you say because you're not a doctor. And I sort of thought that was strange, and maybe it was because I had been out of politics for a few years and hadn't been involved sort of municipal. When I was involved municipally, it wasn't really a party affiliation, and when you get involved with parties, and especially when you're in opposition, you have to sort of wonder why people are telling you this, watch what you say. But then you have to also, and it was actually Gordy that said this to me, eventually you have to say, forget about what your party says. You got to say what you want to say and what you think's the right thing to say. And I remember trying to wordsmith this petition, and there were umpteen petitions, and some of them were in the federal format, like the one Gord has, and our provincial one has a very set format. And finally, I think we got a bit ticked off and just said, we're going to do our own, and we're going to do our own. We want clinical trials to go through. We want this thing to proceed, and that's the way it's going to proceed. So that's what we should say. And I can remember getting in, and it was really strange because I guess I was the first one to table the petition from our side of the house. And after that, it was like a floodgate because people would call me and say, "Can I get a copy of it?" And others, once you say it, and it's up the next day and answer, and you can easily copy and paste and put your own header on it and do whatever you want. So, and it was sort of funny because it was the next day I was in the house for my house duty, and some people from across the way in the government had placed the same petition, the one that I just did the day before. And then later that day, one of the New Democrat MPPs stood up in petitions, and they gave the same petition. So, it made me feel good that sort of our Leeds and Grenville made idea was the one that not just hit the floor, but seemed to have pretty good support. And then you move forward, and then it's like anything else. And you people know this better than I do. It's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, right? You seem to be making some progress, and then you have a bit of a setback. And we've been after the provincial government from our perspective to move forward. And I can remember when the Saskatchewan government said they were going to do clinical trials, and Amy sent it to me. And I was in estimates committee. I was just telling your husband, I'd never been to estimates committee before, and I was there for a particular purpose, to ask certain Ministry of Health questions. And then another MPP subbed in, and they started asking some questions about their local community. And I said, what's going on? And Christine Elliott, our health critic, said, well, you can ask whatever you want. There's a first round of questions, and you did your questions that are priorities to the party. But the second round, you can ask whatever you want to ask about something local. And I said, this is great, So you're right there. And Gilles Bisson asked a question about CCSVI to the minister because she was right there. And he asked, if the science shows that this is something that works, are you going to delay funding? Like, are you going to delay OHIP covering it, or are you going to immediately go that way? And she said, no, if the science is there, we're going to fund it, which was great. All 3 parties very happy with the response. So then I had my question, and I said, are you going to take the lead and not follow other provinces when it comes to the clinical trials? And she tried to actually explain to me that I was wrong and the media was wrong, that Saskatchewan actually wasn't doing clinical trials, that she was at a health ministers conference and there weren't any clinical trials. So I was sort of scratching my head, and I remember calling Michael Jiggins, my EA, and saying, here's get the Hansard from estimates and give it to Amy. And within, I think, probably a couple hours, I got all of the announcements from the province of Saskatchewan, all of the confirmations that they were in fact doing clinical trials. And it made me even more confused. So I went back to the Ministry of Health and said, you know, perhaps the minister needs to read the Saskatchewan announcement. And then after that, New Brunswick, he made the commitment during the election that he was going to do it. He was going to fund it. I think it was $500,000. He came good on his promise once he got elected premier. So, you know, there's some hope. And the last story I'm going to tell you before I sit down and listen to what you have to say is the MS Society. And I think congratulations to you for changing their priorities. When I first got to Queen's Park, I got a little notice that said, you know, we're coming for Lobby Day. And when they come for Lobby Day, all the groups come and meet with all different party MPPs to lobby what they want. And they had their list, and I don't even remember what their list of priorities was, but it wasn't CCSVI. And I remember emailing them back saying, with all due respect, you know, the number one issue with your society in my riding is CCSVI. So if you're going to come to Queen's Park, I don't really want to talk to you about anything else but that. So I'm just letting you know that if you're going to come to see me, that's what I'm talking about. And it ended up that the day that they had Lobby Day, I was here for our society's anniversary. And I remember some of you were there, and I mentioned about CCSVI. I don't know whether I was supposed to or not, but anyway, I thought it was the appropriate thing to bring up. And it was funny, I talked to some of them afterwards and said that I had put a petition in. And they said, you know, what did your petition say? They're all, what did your petition say? And I said, well, I'd asked for the province, you know, participate in clinical trials. And they said, oh, that's the good one. That's what we like. So this Christmas, we got an email from the MS Society. And it was their MS Matters stuff to all MPPs. And to my joy, their priority, what they talked about, was a lot about CCSVI. And they had 3 asks for the provincial government. And although I'm in opposition, we do have both oral questions, but we also have something, they do federally as well, that they have what was called order paper questions. And it's a question you file that the government has a certain period of time that they have to answer. And it tends to be a detailed response. So what I've done is I've taken the requests that the MS Society have for all MPPs, and I've fashioned them in an order paper question. So I'll just read you the order paper questions that I'm going to file when we go back. We go back right after Family Day in February. So I'll file these 3 questions. Would the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care explain why they are not taking an effort, leading an effort for a pan-Canadian therapeutic trial on CCSVI? Secondly, would the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care create a registry for patients who have obtained the CCSVI procedure abroad? And third, and these are all requests from the MS Society, that the Minister of Health, would the Minister of Health ensure that no Ontarian who undergoes treatment for CCSVI abroad is denied the necessary post-treatment follow-up medical care they require when they return home? So that's what they've asked, and that's what I'm going to ask when we go back to Queen's Park. So my final message is keep up what you're doing. We're going through our party and all 3 parties, the Liberals, the New Democrats, the Greens, the whatever else, you know, pick a party. We're all going through policy development for our October 6th election. So meetings like this, communications to me, which we forward on, and I've spoken to our critic, Christine Elliott, about the importance of CCSVI in a platform. I haven't had a chance to tell the leader himself, but I guarantee you that I will. That I will have the opportunity in the next couple of weeks to bend his ear, and I'll tell you the same. I'll tell him the same thing that I'll tell you, that our province shouldn't be following Saskatchewan and New Brunswick and Manitoba and whoever. They should be right at the front. That's where Ontario should be, because the need's there. And if there's anything I can do to foster it while your petitions, please make yourself available, and I'd be more than happy to help. Thanks. I'll shut up now.